So, as we return to Skyrim, after more than a year, I thought we would choose something suitable. Something that has scared the shit out of, or annoyed, almost every player. The Woodland Wankers, the Solid Snake Spritelings, one of the stealthiest yet most conspicuous enemies in all Skyrim, possibly even Tamriel. I speak, of course, of the Spriggans, a strange and semi-rare creature, mostly encountered in grottos, or random patches of heavily forested area. They appear, fuck up your day, and then disappear, just as quickly. But there are more than a few questions that need to be answered about these creatures. Where do they come from? Why do they attack us? What is their relationship with both nature and the Hag Ravens? And more. I shall aim to answer all of this today. Keep in mind we should be focusing mostly on the Spriggans in Skyrim, only touching on them elsewhere, as they are quite distinct. Let's gander. To get a good look at them, in their most neutral state, we're going to head to a place called the Mara's Eye Stones, just south of the Mara's Eye Pond. Here, underneath the stone arch, we can find a slumbering, or perhaps waiting is the better word, Spriggan, waiting to fucking murder us. In many groves and grottos, you can find Spriggans lying in wait like this, perhaps to guard the areas, which we'll come to later, perhaps just resting. In this state, they are absent their signature swarm of green leaves and glow, and are completely immobile, looking more like simple statues, which is likely the point. Spriggans are made entirely from wood, bearing a humanoid form. They're completely hollow, with no muscles, organs, sinew, or brain to manipulate or control their bodies. This is done by the green leaf / bee-like creatures that swarm about the Spriggans, giving them their signature appearance, and causing them to emit a certain amount of light. Notice they seem especially concentrated around the stomach, which resembles taproot, a substance the Spriggans are drawn to for power, which we will discuss later. It may be that this is the core of the Spriggan, the heart, and these small creatures collectively make up the Spriggan, like a hive. They manipulate and control the wooden husk, allowing it to be used to attack enemies. The back of the head is hollow and is adorned with branches that give the appearance of large horns. Their arms are quite long and end in a large four-clawed hand, perfect for stabbing us with. Their feet take on the appearance of wooden hooves, with only 2 toes being present, and give their legs a sort of goat-like appearance. Their chests seem to have an indication of breasts, which become more pronounced as we move up their ranks. They also move with what I believe is the animation for female models in the game. This could just be coincidental, or it could suggest they are meant to be female. The naming conventions we see later would also support this. Overall, they do bear a strong resemblance to the actual Spriggans from Cornish fairy lore. In lore, these creatures also functioned as watchers or guardians of a sort, usually over important areas or treasures, which is also the behaviour we see in many of the Spriggans. They primarily attack by channeling the leaves or bee-like creatures that make up their being. I want to say bee-like due to the sound they make. They can coat their claws in them to attack us, inflicting the same damage as a sword or axe. Interesting to note is that when they do this, the bees swarm away from their bodies and into their hands, once again reinforcing the idea that they are the ones in control. They can also cast them at us using a destruction spell, inflicting poison damage as they do so. This, too, drains the bee-like creatures from them, though since they reform we can assume they do not sacrifice themselves when they attack us. They also have the ability to render themselves invisible, an ability that they have no qualms about spamming to get close to you, and, scaring the shit out of you in the process. When they activate it, they become completely transparent. A faint shimmering, a la Predator, is the only indication that they are stalking you. That and the glow from their spell, which, sort of gives them away. Attacking them will render them visible once more. They also possess the ability to restore their health once it gets low enough that they could die. However, they only seem to be able to use it once, so a continued assault should render them dead as a doorknob, in most cases. Since they are made of wood, they are, shockingly, susceptible to fire. Well, in all cases except one that is, which we'll come to soon. Another ability they have that I neglected to mention is enthrallment. Now, since it's not particularly interesting to behold, I took no footage, and will instead just describe it. A green hue will appear on any creature under the enthrallment. It can cover most wildlife, including usually passive ones, your own animal companions, and even, in one case I saw, a dragon. The enthrallment will make the animals aggressive towards you, and it will last even after their death, almost as if it has permanently changed the creature that it affects. They come in 3 other varieties as well: Spriggan Matron, Spriggan Earth Mother and a Burnt Spriggan. The former two use a female-oriented naming convention, which once again backs up our theory that they are female, or at least feminine in nature. So no, I am not assuming the gender. The Burnt Spriggan, however, is a special case. So for the Spriggan matrons, as you can see, the first very large difference is, well, they're very large, standing much higher than the Spriggans do, living up to their matron title, which is usually appointed to a woman, usually elderly, in a position of authority. More than that though, they are more whole, I guess. They aren't as skinny or as fragile looking as the other Spriggans. I'm having a hard time describing them without accidental innuendos, but fuck it. They're composed of much more wood than the other Spriggans, their limbs being thicker and stronger looking. The horns that adorn their head are much more intricate in their design as well. Going along with their increased level, they are much sturdier than the other Spriggans, by quite a lot actually, unfortunately for us. Their face also seems more feminine in nature as well, almost as if they are simply a more mature Spriggan. The Spriggan Earth Mothers are the next rank up, and are the hardiest of the species that we meet. They retain the more muscular looking build of the matrons. However, they differ in the horns in their head, and in the colour of their bee creatures. They are purple-blackish in colour, giving them a more sinister appearance overall. They also retain their colouring upon their death, unlike the other Spriggans, who return to simple wooden statues. What this could mean is unknown, but may be related to the amount of power they possess in contrast to the previous two. Lastly, we have those Spriggans that are native only to Solstheim, however you pronounce that. They are identical in build to the original Spriggans, excepting their horns, which look more devilish in nature. Well, on the whole they look more devilish in nature, as they are composed mostly of burnt wood. Barring a few burnt looking ones floating about them, they possess none of the bee-like creatures that inhabit other Spriggans. However, given that they still glow, it's likely this is due simply to the overall nature having changed so much. They attack with powerful fire spells now, much in the way the original attack with bees. The flame is always present in their hand when they're running towards you, or just standing around. I have also not been able to find one that went invisible when I confronted it. However, this could be a bug, or I just didn't notice it, and it may be possible for them to do so. Their origins were never confirmed. However, I believe they are in some way related to the eruption of Red Mountain in Solstheim, given how it affected everything else. Why they didn't just die is a mystery though. What they also have, instead of another Spriggan trait, is a very annoying defense mechanism when their health is low. They unleash quite a potent explosion instead of healing themselves, which can be pretty bad when there's a group of them. Now that we have went through the available types, let's take a look at their behaviour. As we saw at Mara's Eye Stones, they have a habit of, well, protecting things. Sometimes it will be a small grotto filled with trees and a tower. Sometimes it will be a large one with many plants and animals inside of it. We shall broach the topic later, but one such area is the Eldergleam, where they are present. It should be noted that it's one of the few areas where they are tolerant of the presence of humans. I covered the Eldergleam quite a while ago, so go back and watch that video if you're interested. What can be said is that there are pilgrims present here, and the Spriggans allow them, unlike in most other grottos or forests in which they're found. However, if we damage the tree, well then they kill everyone, so are bad, I guess. Other times they'll simply be protecting an area that seems to have a relation to one of the many deities in Skyrim, perhaps hinting at their more entwined relation with Nirn. Or they'll simply just sit about being stingy and guard treasure. Cunts. However, there are a few instances that are consistent enough that it makes me think it provides a hint into their true nature. Nirnroot is interesting. It has a lot of implications, some even related to Fallout 4. That, however, is a whole other series of videos, so I won't mention it again. I do, however, believe they are related to the Spriggans. Outside of Falkreath, just to the north of Evergreen Grove, we can find the stream that pours into it, a stream dotted at various points with Nirnroot, more so in other places. Also, here is an alchemist camp, possibly the same alchemist that owned the alchemist shack, as his journal, which talks about mushrooms back then, can be found here. In it, he has found the mushrooms, and wonders what has caused the increased growth in the area. He also wonders how the mushrooms and Nirnroot are affecting the ecosystem downstream. Well, downstream we find out. It's an old Nordic barrow, and it's guarded by a pair of Spriggans. Also, the alchemist is dead, likely when he intruded on the area. However, his notes and their behaviour give us some more hints to their true nature. They were guarding this area. Now, the fact that it is a Nordic barrow could be coincidence. However, the presence of Nirnroot may not be. The enhanced growth the alchemist talked about may be as a result of the Spriggans. We have seen it in all the groves. An abundance of nature is always found where they are. This abundance may not be what attracts the Spriggans. Rather, their presence may encourage the abundance. Perhaps they foster growth in nearby plants. This once again hints at their entwined relationship with nature. Also, they are essentially living trees, so yeah. The Nirnroot may be of significant importance due to an as of yet unknown property. It hasn't been fully studied and no one knows why it glows the way it does. Perhaps this, and the other potent effects that are known, make it important to the Spriggans. In Solstheim, it should be noted that there is an island with a huge deposit of Nirnroot, and an equally large amount of Spriggans. I think this is enough to reinforce a relationship between the two. The groves they inhabit are usually described as sacred, though what makes them so? Some hold treasures. Some, in the case of the Bloated Man's Grotto, hold the weapons of mighty warriors. Some of them are just grottos or caves, where nature has flourished. The question is, whether these areas are sacred and so the Spriggans chose to protect them, or whether they are sacred because the Spriggans have chosen to protect them. Without knowing just how much they influence the growth of nature, we may never be able to say for sure. The relation to nature is also highlighted in the quest related to the Eldergleam, and I will show you the dialogue for that now.
Brigands I can handle, but this talk of dragons?
It's a shame, isn't it? This is the Gildergreen. It was planted as a seedling in the early years of Whiterun. Disciples of Kynareth could sense something holy in it, and traveled far to hear the winds of the goddess in its branches. They built the temple. Of course, not as many pilgrims these days. To the east of here is a hidden grove where the Eldergleam resides. It's the oldest living thing in Skyrim, maybe all of Tamriel. Our tree here in the city was grown from a cutting of that tree. You can still feel the glory of the mother tree through it. Even its name is an echo. I've thought about that. Trees like this never really die, they only slumber. I think if we had some of the sap from the parent tree, we could wake up its child. But even if you could get to the Eldergleam, you couldn't tap it. Not with any normal metal. If you want to help, you'll have to deal with the Hagravens. I've heard about the weapon they've made for sacrificing Spriggans. It's called Nettlebane. The hags terrify me, or I would have gone after it myself. Your spirit is strong. Kynareth's winds will guide your path. It's held in a Hagraven nest called Orphan Rock.
Maid, you should talk to Adrian at the fort.
So the tree that the Spriggans were so involved with was significant as well. It was really old, and or magical. Watch the full video of that if you want more info. All we need to know is that the Spriggans felt it worth guarding. Now onto the topic of the relation with the Hagravens. They're an interesting species, and if you want, I will make a full video of them. But for now, what's important is how they relate to the Spriggans, and what this tells us about the Spriggans themselves. All Spriggans drop taproot. It's a source of their power, or their heart if you want to be exact. But that suggests they can get more power and grow by taking in more taproot. Possibly from other Spriggans, possibly from somewhere else. This may be where the matrons and the Earth Mothers come into it. Knowing this, the Hagravens set traps for the Spriggans. They place taproot among traps, designed to lure them in, and then take them out. Dotted around Orphan Rock, just one of their nests, are the heads of various Spriggans. Gruesome stuff, but it should give you an idea of how the Hagravens feel about them. Then there is Nettlebane itself, a strange looking knife. It's needed to sacrifice Spriggans. Not kill, sacrifice. Note its strange organic nature, like the blade itself is alive. Note also that the Spriggan it was used on didn't lose its bees or glow. It remained even after death. Also, this knife was needed to tap the Eldergleam. That means it can be used on more than just Spriggans, but possibly any creature related to nature, which means the Spriggans too must be related in some way. Perhaps they kill them this way to preserve their glow, and perhaps the Spriggans sap as well, which is normally absent when they die, just like their glow and bees. So they are related in some way to nature. This much is evident, you know, because they look like trees. More than that though, they are always seen in groves or such areas that are noteworthy for their plant life. though like we said, it's unclear whether they protect such areas so they can grow, or they actually foster it themselves. They are also found in relation to several deities in the Elder Scrolls universe. Mara was one such deity that we've seen them associated with this time, and it may be that other areas we've seen them in are also associated with one divinity or another. One lead to their origins is given in Solstheim. The people there, called the Skal, give us somewhat of an explanation. To them, the Allmaker is the deity responsible for all life and creation, though more on that another time. They believe that when the Allmaker breathed life into the land, it flew through the trees, as it were, bringing them to life. They believe this created the Spriggans. Others believe they are just a force of nature, manifested on Nirn, much in the same way some also believe for the Wisp Mothers. One last point is why they appear so different now as opposed to other games. We can take two paths to explain this. One is just change over time, as different designers and developers got their hands on the game. Another is environment. Skyrim is much colder than many other regions of Tamriel. To this end, the Spriggans may have adapted, taking on the forms of trees in Skyrim, as opposed to their more human appearance they had in, for example, Bloodmoon or Oblivion. The manifestations of nature themselves. The Spriggans. They come in many different shapes and sizes as we saw. They seem to have a relationship with nature, one that either involves them protecting groves to let them grow, or they affect the plant life around them, causing the increased growth. They exist as a swarm of bee-like creatures that draw their strength from taproot. This is exploited by the High-Gravens, who frequently use them as sacrifices, and for other messed up shit. They also seem to have some relation with Nirnroot, given that they can be found near some of the largest concentrations, possibly due to an as of yet unknown quantity of the root. A fascinating creature, all in all, that's bark is much, much worse than its bite. Living trees and protectors of nature. I hope you liked this look at all of it. If you did like it, give the video a like, and if you want regular updates, subscribe. Any suggestions for lore or future videos should be left in the comments below. Better yet, go onto my subreddit so we can discuss them in more detail. It's linked in the description. If you wish to, you can support me on Patreon. £1 or $1, I ask for no more. Any rewards you would like to see there that I don't have, message me and I will take a look. Follow me on Twitter or Facebook to get regular updates, or have a wee chat. Any business you wish to discuss, email me at nthapple.business@gmail.com and I will get back to you as soon as possible. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope to see you in the next one. And until then, goodbye.